Welcome back after that short break. We're here with assistant baseball coach Jason Sturgill as we continue in what is a very non-traditional segment here in Forward Capital Crusaders. Usually we talk to head coaches, usually we bounce around between certain things, but we thought we'd just cram it all in one here with Coach Sturgill and knock it all out with one fell swoop. We talked a little bit of Capital Baseball. Now we're going to talk about something else with Coach Sturgill that has definitely led to how he is today, as well as just the man that he is, as well as the coach. So, Coach, you are a very proud veteran of the United States Army. So take us back in time. I know that you went to college and you played some ball before getting hurt, but then came the military. How did that all come to be?
The military was, it's more of a family thing. My grandfather was in World War II. My father was in Vietnam. And I just wanted to serve, keep on the family tradition. I finished college first, then went into the military. I was more of a reservist because I did have a civilian job that I loved very much. But that's pretty much how it's family tradition for me. Family tradition.
Now, did they all serve, your family, did they serve in the United States Army, or how did you navigate choosing which branch to serve in?
Oh, it was Army all the way. My grandfather and also my dad was Army.
Not even a consideration for the other branches, huh?
No, not at all.
All right. So when you enlisted into the reserve program, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so tell us and maybe walk us through, we know the why, but just how that played into navigating a civilian job as well as military service.
Yeah, it was, it's not too bad because in the reserves, you meet one time a month for a couple days. But in the civilian job as well, it's a lot on your plate. But the hardest part is when you get deployed because you're so used to your civilian job where you have to now all become Army only for a year and a half. So that was pretty hard.
Now, kind of rewinding just a hot second, was this something that while you were in college that this was kind of part of the plan, or was this something that kind of popped up as a matter of circumstance?
It was a plan before I graduated. I definitely wanted to go in the Army. I really, at the time, really wasn't really excited to go full-time Army because I worked so hard in college to get my degree, and I wanted to work in the civilian force, everything like that. So the idea when I enlisted was to go into the reserves.
So did you specialize in any area? I mean, you were United States Army, but did you go into any kind of specialization in your field?
Yeah, I actually enlisted as a military police MP. The unit that I was in actually at Fort Hays in Columbus, I don't think it's Fort Hays anymore, but we were combat support where we went in and actually gave perimeters and helped with the infantry and all those guys.
We're talking with assistant baseball coach Jason Sturgill, kind of going back in time and talking about his military service, for which we are all very thankful for. Talk about, before we get too far in, at the beginning where military training comes in, had there been anything comparable to the military training in your life up to that point?
Well, from being from a small town and raised on a farm, I mean, I always did the hunting and the fishing and stuff like that. But it was all a culture shock when I went in. Even though I went in at 22, 23, with other recruits that were coming in at 18, just out of high school, I had the discipline with the sports. I had the discipline being raised. My family and everything, so it was a really good time.
So we know that, and you're pretty candid about this, that you were deployed to Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And you saw action over there. What can you share with us, or what would you like to share with us about your experience while being deployed?
Yeah, I was actually, I think pretty much my whole life changed when with 9/11, how it changed with a lot of people, but with the service as being a reservist and being deployed. Right after 9/11, I got sent straight over to Afghanistan. So our job, I actually had the honor to work with Navy SEALs and Special Forces, and we actually went up in the mountains and captured the terrorist. And some things happened there where it turned to only be a one-day mission. It turned into 3 days. We got ambushed, things like that, and a lot of things had to be done that was very hard.
So when you go back and you look at that experience, I mean, obviously there are some things that, aren't so pleasant to go back and relive, but there are definitely some positives that you can pull out of those experiences, I'm sure. What do you look back to and say, yes, I'm better, or I'm glad that something like this happened in my lifetime?
Yeah, I think, the biggest part of it while I was in and stuff was learning from other people. I've learned a lot from the Navy SEALs and Special Forces that we use in our culture today at Capital Baseball. And I think the biggest thing that I learned in the military was our values. Values that I live by today, which is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And I live by those on a daily basis. I teach those values to my kids and also to our players.
So you have taken a lot out of that experience and kind of translated into something that is actually pretty relevant that you do outside of the ball field, and that's as a mental sport performance coach. Talk about that. What is that all about? What exactly is it?
Well, I'll go a little bit back on how it kind of started. So with, I was deployed in Afghanistan. I was also deployed in 2004. In 2004, I was supposed to go to Iraq, but at the last minute, they changed my orders, and I got sent to Fort Riley, Kansas, to work with soldiers who were getting deployed to Iraq with self-defense, hand-to-hand combat, things like that. So those are the only two that I can talk about, really, is those two, Afghanistan and Fort Riley, Kansas. I really can't get into more detail with the other ones, but with all that said and done in Afghanistan and things like that, I developed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and got into a point to where when I got back, it started getting really, really bad. I was in the mentality at that time thinking, you know what, I'm U.S. Army, I can get over it, and there's no issues, but it kept on compounding. The PTSD, the flashbacks, the anxiety, the depression, all of that affected my family. Unfortunately, I got a divorce, but I started thinking to myself is that I need to change my whole mindset. I need to reprogram my brain. And what I came to the point to it is that I can't control 95% of the stuff that happens. I have to live in the present. People with PTSD, they always think about the past. So I started doing that, and I'm nowhere near as good as I could be, but it's a daily basis. And that's something that I help with a lot of our players and a lot of players outside of our program, is working with mental skills, mental toughness. With baseball, everybody says it's a game of failure. So I work with a lot of our players and a lot of other players and parents about how overcoming fear. So that's kind of pretty much how it's all came about.
So where you are right now, is this a something that you do on the side and you offer your services to those that are seeking this kind of counsel and or coaching? Is that how that works?
Yeah. I've actually been doing it for a couple years, working with players all throughout the nation, either on the phone or on a computer, helping them with that. So, and I do it every day with our players as well here at Capital. But my services do go out to anybody that I could help when it comes, and it's not just baseball, it's any sport. I've worked with gymnasts, I've worked with a couple soccer players, a couple football players. So the mental toughness part of it is just not a baseball. It's every sport. And I talk with a lot with parents as well. And I've helped out a lot of business owners, things like that. I do a lot of public speaking. Hopefully be able to do a lot more public speaking in the coming year. So and I talk about my story. My story is pretty unique, and I held that story in for 13 years. Did not let anybody know. Everybody knew that I was deployed to Afghanistan, but they didn't know what happened up in the mountains and things like that and stuff that I go through. So, yeah, it's not as hard to talk about as it used to be. Used to be if I talked about it to my family, because I will admit that I came to one of the lowest points of my life with all this, and I did unfortunately attempt suicide, like a lot of veterans do. I've lost a lot of friends. I've lost more friends from veteran suicide than I have from war and in Afghanistan. So when I came to that point, and when the suicide failed, it all changed, and I've become better to where I have to fix myself before I could ever work with anybody else. So it's been a long road, but it's been a rewarding road and a challenging road. But I don't regret any of it. I think, I'm a Christian, and I think that the Lord above saved my life, and it's time for me to help others.
Well, we're glad that you're here, and we're glad that, your experiences have led you here,
Yeah.
as well as that can be, employed on our young men. You bring up something really interesting before I go down another road, but just the fact that you work with baseball players, other athletes, business leaders. Mm-hmm. Those are very, very different clientele. So what are the common themes that are transferable between all of these different people and organizations?
Well, the thing about it is when people talk about mental toughness, it's not only in sports. So the biggest thing why people, are having issues with certain things is because it comes down to destructive beliefs that they have, and it comes down to the fear of failure. That's in the corporate world or the sports world. So that's why I can work with so many people, because it comes down to those two things. And over the years, I've developed a concept that I use with all my people. It's called the DICE, D-I-C-E program. It's because what it is that you have to work with someone at the subconscious level, because you have your conscious mind, your unconscious mind. You have to work with people at the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is your thinking mind, and your subconscious is your beliefs. That's where the failure is. That's where destructive beliefs are. So if we work on those, and I come up with antidotes, like if somebody is a fear of failure, I have our guys and people I work with, they will say, I am fearless 30 to 100 times a day, and that will eventually get into the subconscious mind to where that fear doesn't exist anymore. And so the DICE program is being determined on your ability to change the way you're thinking. I is informed. That's more of working with what I just called you need to know how the brain works, the subconscious mind works, and how the conscious mind works. And C is getting to the point to where it's called clear. We clear those obstacles. We clear that fear. And the last part is E, which is emotional mastery, where we actually, the biggest problem with mental toughness is controlling your emotions. So we work with that too. So the DICE method that I've came up with and that I've used has really worked for me and worked for a lot of other people. So.
Well, we hope that we haven't given away too much of a free seminar of sorts on the program, but we're certainly glad that you got to share that with us. And, anybody that's out there that's looking for similar services with Coach Sturgill, you can certainly find him. You're all over Twitter, from what I understand. You've built yourself quite a social media following, and it's certainly growing. So tell us how somebody might be able to get a hold of you to, look at such services.
Yeah, you can contact me on, you can direct message me on Twitter or Instagram, Coach Sturgill, at Coach Sturgill. They can also email me. My email address for Capital is on our website. And they can also call me at 740-877-9896. You can either give me a call or text.
Well, Coach, we come kind of off the heels of Veterans Day, which is kind of what prompted me to think that you would be a fantastic guest for this episode. When you look back at days like Veterans Day and holidays in which we remember those that have served, first and foremost, thank you for your service. But who, would you like to remember, or what would you like to share with those so that we remember those properly?
Well, the situations that I've been in with, in war and stuff, I lost a lot of comrades, a lot of friends. So I know for me, Veterans Day, Memorial Day is a really tough time for me as a veteran, because I'm thinking of the friends and comrades that I lost. So those days are very hard for me. I think at this time, everybody needs to be in remembrance of the people that we lost on the battlefield and off the battlefield. When it comes to addiction, comes to suicide, things like that. So it's a hard day for a lot of us veterans. We appreciate the love and support that we get from everyone, but also us veterans, it's a brotherhood, and we think about the people that we lost.
Is there anything that we can do to either do it more properly, that we can remember those with intention, or in any way help?
I think the thing about it is just, for me, now is the Vietnam veterans. You probably can't go anywhere without seeing a guy wearing his Vietnam veteran hat. And I go and talk to veterans all the time from Vietnam. I even know a few World War II veterans and stuff. But, when you see those guys, somebody wearing military, that they were in the military, any branch, just go up and shake their hand or fist bump, tell them thank you. And, Happy Veterans Day is fine, but also keep in remembrance, too, that we're having a little tough day that day. With Memorial Day and also for Veterans Day. So just keep that in mind, but a thank you is more than enough.
All right. Well, Coach Sturgill, again, thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing your story, and also sharing your services not just out there for everybody else to have, but with our young men at Capital Baseball.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right. We've been talking with assistant baseball coach Sturgill. Part 1 was all about baseball. Part 2 was all about service and also life coaching. Stick around. We're going to talk with Capital alumnus Shane Fouch from the class of 1998, and some Capital football coming up next on the Forward Capital Crusaders podcast.